Well, good evening and welcome to the Town of Petawawa Council and Committee electronic meeting for July the 12th. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this evening. Seeing none, then we'll go to the first report, which is the Fire Department report and the activity. Deputy Chief, where are you? There you go, Craig.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. For the activity report for June, starting with incidents, we only had 6 incidents through the month. For open air burning, we had a call the corner of Wolf and Victoria. The crews responded and couldn't locate a fire. On June 19th, crews responded for smoke in the area of Woodland Crescent, and a resident was burning without a permit. On June 27th, we went to Hilda for a burning complaint, and the resident was burning with no permit, and there's charges pending. For CO, we had a carbon monoxide call on June 1st on Bayshore. This ended up came in as a fire alarm, but was determined it was a CO, and the CO alarms were expired. So the crews replaced it and made sure that they had working CO alarms before we left the residence. But a smell of burning, plastic burning in a residence on June 18th on Dorn, and it ended up, it was one of those plug-in Sensi appliances. So the crews removed it, and it seemed to mitigate the issue. And we had a fire alarm on June 30th, which was a heat-activated device detector that was set off, and the crew recommended a fire alarm technician attend to correct the issue. For fire prevention, we didn't have a lot going on fire prevention, some minor inspections, but we did some virtual sessions with this local schools, which actually was a success. So we're going to continue on with that. But other than that, was just minor inspections, and our chief fire inspector actually attended a webinar with the community risk assessment, which we needed information on because that's coming due next year from the province. For residential CO and smoke alarms, we had a total of 80 that were looked at this month. A lot of them are due to the recreational permits, and our fire prevention branch was out there full force trying to catch up on the permits from the lockdowns and whatnot. But that brings us to a total of 167 alarms that were checked through the month. For burning permits, we had 54 that were new, 62 renewals, and it brought us up to 977 from 923. For training, our crews did a structural operation walkthrough, which consisted of procedures and tactics on attacking structure fires, setting up apparatuses, setting up hose lines and attack lines and supply lines. And they also went through the annual event enter, isolate, search, practice, and discussion, and also laddering different scenarios. We had the new recruit training. We had 5 new recruits that started their training, their orientation training on June 24th. And the 28th, they completed their personal protective equipment portion of the training. For maintenance, it was just minor items that were maintaining the vehicles. We had a couple safety checks with some of our vehicles. Minor repairs for the stations, and as well as for equipment, we had a couple pumps that had to have the carburetors cleaned and a new fuel filter replaced. For the fire chief's comments, the fire chief participated in a meeting with the Renfrew County Mutual Aid Plan on June 16th. Chief participated in an Ontario Fire Marshal webinar on the community risk assessment on June 17th. Chief Knott and myself, we attended a site meeting at the Terrace Provincial Park with the Ministry of Natural Resources, Fire Suppression, and the park warden. So this is from last month when we were discussing the issues of the buildup in the terrace. And we met with the park warden, Tim Courtney, and fire management, Mary Sandoval and Kevin Kirchhoff. They came down from Halliburton, and we looked at the vegetation and to see what we can do to mitigate the fire risk. And we took a walk through of the terrace and then around the neighboring subdivisions. It was decided that there is not much of a risk of fire because of the There's about 50% deciduous and there's a 50% conifer. So conifer is more explosive in the spring and is a concern, but the way the fields are situated, it would take a lot for a fire to get up in the canopy, in the treetops, and take off. But the deciduous don't burn as readily as the conifer, if that makes sense. So what we've come up with is the ministry is going to go in and they're going to situate the trees that are leaning in areas that are a safety concern, but they're just going to lay them on the ground, so that helps with species and habitats. I know that they were talking to the biologists from the ministry and they're concerned of the salamander habitat, and this will actually increase it. But if you look at the terrace from the Laurentian Drive, it looks a lot worse. So they're going to take a lot of the fine fuels, which is the smaller fuels like twig and branches, and kind of remove them, and then leave the coarse fuels. So just as long as there's no air gaps underneath the coarse fuels, like the logs, then it's not much of a fire hazard. We don't have a big concern with that. And neither does the ministry, fire management from the ministry. So that's what we've come up with to try to make everything safe. And everybody was pretty happy with the decision. The fire chief participated in the Ontario Fire Marshal Peg's webinar on June 23rd, and also attended a meeting at the Pembroke Fire Hall with the Renfrew County Heavy Extrication Units on June 24th. Chief Knott was notified that he was nominated and appointed by the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs Boards of Directors as one of 8 fire chiefs in the province that will make up the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs Training Task Force. This is quite an honor for us, for our chief to be selected from 600 chiefs in the province for this task force. And the task force is for research and analysis and investigating current practices for the fire service as we move forward with the province. As we all are aware that the Fire College did shut down this year in March. So they're looking at ways to standardize and also make it more user-friendly for the municipalities in Ontario. So hopefully they can figure out ways to help out the smaller departments to get through the training and how to get everybody trained within the province. And that's my report for June.
Well, thank you, Craig. Congratulations to Steve Knott, the chief. As you say, it is quite an honor to be selected for the province. I know training is a major issue now that the fire college has been closed and stuff like that. So, yeah, so it'd be nice to have one of our own right there at the forefront of training in the province. Well done to Chief Knott. I'll open it up for questions of the report. Murray, then Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, thank you for the update on the Terrace Park, because I have been questioned on that more than ever in the last few weeks. So I will pass this information on, and please pass on to the chief. Congratulations. I think that's very important for us. Thank you.
Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, congratulations to Chief Knott. Definitely an honor for him and for the town of Petawawa to be chosen. Also, Craig, thank you very much for the Petawawa Terrace update. So that I'm clear, the trees that are leaning are going to be taken down and left on the forest floor, I guess, for lack of a better term. And then the various little branches and things like that are going to be cleaned up. That's the takeaway for me.
Craig?
Through you, Mayor Sweet, Teresa. Yes, that's correct, Councillor Sabran. They're going to be removing some of the fine fuels, but leaving the coarse fuels down for the habitat and the species.
Okay, thank you very much.
So on that issue, what they're doing in there conforms to the management plan that's been put in place for that park, as I understand it, to be kept in a natural environment. That is the part and parcel of the management plan. Is that correct, Craig? Or was that mentioned?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Further on the report. Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the report, please. Murray, seconded by James. Oh, there's Teresa. Sorry, Teresa. I'll get you the next one. No discussion, all in favor? It is carried. Thank you. The fire budget. Craig, did you want to talk to us about this? Is there anything we should be concerned about?
No, I don't have much for the fire budget. We did make a big purchase there this past, I think a couple of weeks ago. We purchased our fit testing machine, which was 25,000. I think it came in. But other than that, we're still working on purchasing more equipment, and that's probably going to come in the next couple of months. But other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay, any questions of the report, of the budget? Seeing none, we'll take that and keep that as an information item. Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you.
Community services, Kelly.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Good evening. Activity report for June under administrative services. You'll see up at the very top, arena floor construction project. We're starting to get down to the nitty gritty. So the project still is on budget and on time, and our pour date is this Thursday. So the arena floor is other than a few wires having to be bent here and there, is pretty much ready for pouring now. And so Thursday's our day. Weather looks acceptable. It's not too hot, not too humid. And so it'll be a busy day of activity at the Civic Center. The trucks will start probably about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And they will, a cement truck will arrive at the Civic Center every 15 minutes up until probably about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And once they start pouring the concrete, they can't stop. So it'll be a flurry of activity all day. We've connected with all of our user groups, especially ones that may be using the backside of the facility, tennis and the Horticultural Society, to park in other locations on the site that day and walk around. So we'll have our hands full on Thursday. About early evening when they're done pouring, then the finishers come in and they finish the concrete and make sure that it's level. And then after that, we wait for 28 days. So everything's looking good so far, knock wood, and Thursday's a big day.
Good.
A little further down, Laurentian Highlands Park Municipal Stakeholder Review. So as I instructed council last committee meeting, the WSP as our consultant was conducting an electronic public consultation process. Normally we do these in person, but with COVID, we went electronic, and it worked out really well. We got 113 responses, lots of comments and feedback. About 71% of all respondents actually live in Laurentian Highlands subdivision. Really gave some positive feedback, leaning more towards natural playgrounds and a sort of decentralized play area within the park. Some other suggestions included, what about a splash pad? We don't normally put splash pads in neighborhood parks, but we're looking into what possibilities may be there. So our consultants at WSP are taking all that feedback away, and they're going to pull out the things that people are really looking for, and majority of comments in the design elements of what was proposed in the 2 draft concepts, and kind of bring them together to build a park that will be acceptable to the majority of people that provided comment. And so they have the summer to do that, and then they will be back in September with a full report, a detailed design, budget estimate, and we'll be able to sit down with council and talk about sort of our design recommendations and what it's going to cost to build it down the road, and we can kind of go from there. So we're happy with the response. You'll see a little further down that we finished the boat launch repairs at Petawawa Point. We got really lucky. Normally, like I made council aware a little while back, we'd have to do this work in around the end of July or early August, but we are experiencing historically low water in the Ottawa River and have been for a while. And a majority of the work area was actually either out of the water or just had a couple inches of water over top of it. So it made the job easy. We didn't have to de-water near as much as we thought we would. And we have received lots of positive comments from users around, the finished product, and people are happy with it. We still have a couple things we're going to look into in terms of the connection between the concrete part of the dock and the actual floating dock. And we'll make some considerations for budget, but right now it's working really well. People are happy with it, and I think we had a successful repair. I will add, though, with these historical water levels, that we are challenged with the beachhead. And as council's aware, as the water levels go down in the Ottawa River, the edge of the water on the beachhead and the navigable channel that's out front of the beachhead get closer and closer and closer. So over the last couple of weeks, we have moved the big sign that's down on the beach that tells people to swim upstream of the beachhead, closer to the water's edge. We've also installed some signs throughout the beach asking people to swim upstream of the beachhead and to be cautious of the beachhead area because of low water and the fact that the boating channel is adjacent to it. We are looking right now at other options through Transport Canada and the Office of Boating Safety to see if there's other things we can do. One of the things we can do is to demarcate a swimming area. We're fully within our rights right now to do that as the designated authority for that area of the river. And we are looking at other things like, slow, no wake kind of signage or buoys that we can put in the water as well. Just sort of around the red channel marker that's out in front of the beachhead to try to slow boats down as they come through that area. Most boaters do, but every now and then we get a boater that wants to show off and go through on full plane, and it creates a dangerous situation. So we continue to work, and we're hoping, in the next couple of days to hear back from Transport Canada. You'll see that we did some new worker, young worker orientation. So this time of year, we train all of our summer staff. We had 2 big sessions, one on the 22nd, one on the 30th, with about 10 students in each session, and continue to do our new worker, young worker program to make sure that our summer staff are trained in terms of health and safety and things that they need to know to work safely out in the field. And just lastly, I'll reference that I am working with the public library in terms of renewing our service agreement and working towards having a report for council at the August committee meeting. Under tourism services, not a lot to mention. We did a video shoot down at the Heritage Village to procure some more promotional video. But I will also mention that right now we do have our Petawawa Staycation prize giveaway that's currently on. If you want information on it, it's on our website. And we have 2 staycation prize packages that we're giving away. We have 20 participating local Petawawa businesses involved in the program. And people can drop off ballots at any one of those 20 businesses. They're listed on the Town of Petawawa website. And there's a couple really nice packages that you can win to, do a local, weekend holiday and enjoy all Petawawa has to offer. So that runs up until the end of the month. And if people want more information, they can go to the town's website. Under Parks and Facility Services, you'll see that we were quite busy getting the pop-up container market ready. Through the early part of June, we had to rerun wireless service so that the vendors could use debit and credit in order to sell their wares. We installed lighting and put shade awnings on top of the front of each of the 5 containers. And of course, as council knows, the container market opened up on the 18th. We did open up our splash pad maybe about a week earlier than we normally do. At that time, it was really hot. And at the same time, restrictions were lifted by the province. So we opened up our splash pad on June the 4th. Under capital works, I've given you the rundown on where we're at the end of June. Our hall washrooms we're just waiting on a couple urinal parts for the automatic flushers, but other than that, the washrooms are finished and ready to go. We're hoping they'll be in this week. Indian Diamond backstops, 85% done. Our contractor injured injured himself, and so he hasn't been able to work, but he's has told us he'll be back on the job tomorrow or Wednesday, and so we're hoping he can finish that off within a few days. And then lots of stuff that's on back order, a lot of benches and our beach umbrellas, and it's just COVID. You know, it just it's taken a long time to get things in. Anything that has to be manufactured has delays. Under program services, so you'll see we opened up our skate park pilot project on June the 12th. We also opened our kayak, SUP, and canoe rental operation on June the 12th. That operation's operating similar to last summer, so we have all our COVID protocols in place. It's almost mirror image from last summer, and so far the business has been healthy down there. Challen did her summer camp staff training and development June 23rd to 25th. I will let council know without giving you any details because it's too early, especially given COVID, but Colin's working on an event called September to Remember, which will be sort of a weekend event with a number of different activities in it. But, you know, in another 3 weeks, the COVID rules are going to change again. So he's kind of got a lot of things in the work, but we really can't share it because we don't know exactly what things are going to look like. But by next committee meeting, I should have some information for you. And lastly, under program services, our Canada Day giveaway, we had over 1,500 entries. The winner was Evan Koziel. He was glad to get his barbecue and all the other extras that went with it. Successful campaign for sure. Under rental activity, of course, we don't have a lot. That will change starting this Friday with us being able to allow smaller groups into the building for smaller type activities. But I will reference the two COVID vaccination clinics that we hosted. One was on the 18th, in which we had 500 doses. And on the 29th, a little smaller one, 200 doses. Certainly it was a full team effort between the paramedics of Renfrew County, the Centennial Family Health Center and staff and community services. It took kind of all hands on deck to make it happen. But, you know, once we got set up and we kind of figured out what we were doing, it ran really smooth. And the first clinic that we hosted went all day till late in the afternoon. And then the second clinic, we didn't start it quite as early and it was done by about 3 in the afternoon. But certainly it went really well, and you know, we could easily do it again. The paramedics were telling us that, you know, if we had more people to put needles in arms, we could easily handle 1,000 doses or even more than that. Just given the site and the way it's laid out, it worked really well for a drive-in type setup. And you know, if we ever needed to do it again, we're more than ready. And I think that's it for June's activity report, Mr. Mayor. I'll be glad to answer any questions council might have.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Okay, I'll open it up for questions of Kelly's report. Okay, the deputy mayor, Gary, then Tom, and then Teresa. Gary?
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thanks for your report, Kelly. I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the Petawawa Public Library for training our student workers in your student orientation program. That was nice of you to include our 2 workers with yours. And I just have a question about the skate park. Is it getting well used, and is it mandatory to wear a helmet in the skate park? I was just wondering.
So no, it's not getting well used. Our bike park is packed. I've seen it kind of off and on where some little kids on smaller bikes with their parents are using it. The odd person will wander over from the bike park and use it for a bit, but it's certainly not getting the activity that the bike park is. Now, mind you, the scale's different. It's small, and you know, it's not a concrete bowl or that type of thing, but I think we just need to give it some time. You know, we've had a bike park here in Petawawa for a long time, and kids know that. And a lot of kids have specialized bikes that are designed just for that type of park. So I think we just need to give it a bit more time. And there's a reason why we're doing a pilot project, right? We're gauge interest. get feedback from people who are using it. And you know, those are important things we need to understand in terms of you know, resident wants and needs, and you know, moving forward, is that something that we invest in? So there's a reason why we're doing it, and I think we need to leave it there for a little while and see how it goes. In terms of helmets, yeah, helmets are recommended. They're not mandatory. Certainly that our insurance company provided us with feedback around, you know, if you're going to make it mandatory, then you need to have staff there that can enforce the fact that helmets are mandatory. And we don't have a staff person standing there monitoring it all day long. So it's a common practice, and it's certainly based on you know, comments from the risk management team as part of our insurance company. So it's been identified through our website and on site that that's the case, and we'll just go from there.
Thanks.
Lisa,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Kelly, I just wanted to congratulate the team on the boat launch. It's a real treat to be able to take your boat down and not have to worry about losing a wheel or stuff like that. And it was really well done. And so I know there was a lot of coordination in that. The only comment that I have is probably just a note to the various people with their trailers. If we could only get people to park properly down there now, that would probably be the next challenge. I think there's a lot of missed opportunities for parking because of the way people are parking. But again, we added some space last year, and so hopefully that'll be the next step. But it's looking really good down there. Thanks very much.
thank you. Tom,
Kelly, thank you very much for holding the COVID clinic. I heard nothing but great reviews. It was much appreciated by anybody that went there. They said it was well organized, and I heard nothing but great things about it. So it was nice to see us finally get into that mix and do something for our local residents. So I think it was much appreciated. My other question is, I'm hearing a rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not. Did we have some vandalism at the Kin Hut?
Yeah, we have had some vandalism. The biggest vandalism happened actually a couple months ago. We had the four stream recycle garbage container that was up against the wall outside the canteen was lit on fire. But it continues to be a challenge. We've had some damage to doors. Certainly the OPP is well aware. We make them aware of these situations. They were on site to follow up after the fire, do some investigation. You know, it's not an every year kind of thing, but if we're going to get vandalism flare-ups, it usually happens around the end of June. Has to do with kids getting out of school, and you know, some kids may be leaving the community because they've been posted somewhere else and they leave in July. But it's kind of a common. We can predict when we're gonna get some heavy vandalism, and it's usually around the end of June. And it happened this year. You know, we're dealing with the best we can, and you know, we haven't had a lot of vandalism in the last week or two, so you know, our trends are holding true.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Other questions of Kelly's report? Seeing none, I need a motion, please. Tom and Gary, all in favor? It is carried. Community budget, Kelly?
Nothing to highlight really, Mr. Mayor. We're at 45% both at the Civic Center and across the board for the department. We should be at 50 this time of year. You know, our gap has shrunk a little bit, like I said it would a month or so ago. As some of the bigger bills start to come in for some of our bigger capital projects, we'll start to shrink that gap a bit. But yeah, we're still under budget, and I really don't have any areas of concern at this point.
Thank you. Questions of the budget? Seeing none, we'll receive that as information. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Okay, Public Works. There's David. David, Public Works.
Yeah.
PW 19 2021.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So this is a report on the trail wayfinding strategy. So if you remember back when we did the bicycle friendly community workshop, there was several recommendations coming from that, and one was to undertake a comprehensive wayfinding strategy. So we engaged WSP. They're the firm that completed our active transportation plan. And so we've engaged them to kind of further their work that they did on that active transportation plan and create a strategy for us. So the process that we went through was that we sent them a lot of our existing documentation, trail strategies that we currently have. Our community services, Kelly, was extremely helpful in regards to providing, signage layouts and different strategies that we have in place. Any of the mapping and some of that background information and some pictures of existing infrastructure. We're fortunate that one of the individuals that worked on the project is actually from Petawawa. So she could just go at her doorstep and see some of the infrastructure. So that was extremely helpful. And I think was a huge benefit to the overall package. So that was the first step. The second step was some meetings with internal staff and external stakeholders. Garrison Petawawa was involved, County of Renfrew, the Ottawa Valley Cycling and Active Transportation Association. And so they provided their inputs in regards to some general ideas and directions that we were going to look at going. So they took that information and put it into a draft report. This is, that draft report was commented by the staff. And so what you have is like a final draft that we'd propose to council. So I'll just go through the actual report itself, starting at page 3. So the family of signs is divided into 4 basically different benefits or uses. One is the information. So you see the 2 types on pages 4 and 5. One being a major and a minor for the different hubs. So just to go over the major one, so we have the Petawawa Dynamic by Nature right at the front. We have a little bit of a logo in regards to what we wanted to do was incorporate a little swoop into the graphics. And that graphics, there's 2 different layouts for it. One that would include some active transportation only and non-motorized, and then one that does include some motorized. And so that would be, if we were putting some on the Algonquin Trail, that would include the motorized. Then you have the key plan of the town, all color coded in regards to the different trails, and it talks a little bit about each trail, and also provides a difficulty scale. There's a legend there. Talks about the trail etiquette on it, contact for emergency situations, some pictures. The other thing too that we wanted to not overbearing the signage is that we've got I think it's a QR code. I think that's what they call it. But a little code that you can use your smart device and get additional information. So that would link up to, say, our website, and then that would have a little bit more information on the trails. Also, say if you're on a trail and it's set up for like additional information, i.e. like a storyboard. So that could go to a link for your the Petawawa library, and they could have a little story, and that could be changed every so often. So that's included. And then we've also included a spot for if we have some trail sponsors. So that's right in front. So that's kind of the general layout. And that would be for the major hubs. And in the one of the appendix, we have a diagram of where the different signs would be used. So the minor information is similar, but just less information on it. So then we've got into the interactive. So that's a second style of signage. And so it gives some information while you're on the trail of certain points. And in some of our trails, we already have this. And so that's why I thought it was great that WSP really did take a good inventory of our existing signage. And so it wasn't that we're going to have to redo everything, but did provide some additional information that we could include at a later date. Trail counters is going to be another thing that we could incorporate. So we do have on order 2 units that will track the use in regards to pedestrians or cyclists. And it's always nice when you're using a trail. Oh, I'm number 37 in the trail that has used it today. So that would be the one. Guidance. So it talks a little bit more about the pathway individually, the length, a little bit more information on the difficulty within the loop. So that's the third type. And then we have some directional markers that would be used in other locations too. We've also included in that category the regulatory. So, don't cross unless you're at a signalized intersection types or a stop sign or those type of signages. That would all be under that guidance category. And then the final is the placemaking or your main gateways. So certainly we're really happy with what we had already completed in regards to those gateways. And so just acknowledge that in the document. And, if we go on further, the different options that are available for the different hubs. And then the other thing that we, or I should say Kelly had shared with them was the banner that we had done, the banner programs. And so he provided that information. And then there's different banners that we could hang or wraps that you can do around light posts and things like that. So something easy that can be changed very quickly and basically utilizing the existing infrastructure. So that's the family of signs, and their various uses. Starting on page 11, it talks about the neighborhood greenways. So, trying to incorporate green spaces in different corridors and things like that. And so, that would be something that we would do when we're designing the roads and that. And so it gives you an example of, a little bit of the green space that would be incorporated in the design when we do, and this is something that we're already doing. So when we did the Algonquin Trail, that twinning paved portion of it, included green space in between the Algonquin Trail and the Petawawa Boulevard. And, we have trees planted along that trail. So it's just, re-emphasizing what we've already are doing. So section 3 gets into the web programming. So this is what I was talking about in regards to the QR code that you could use on your smart device. And then that would take you to the link on the websites. Scrolling down, and so the fourth section talks about the implementation. So the material type, we wanted to make sure something that is durable, but something that's not very that's not going to be cost prohibitive. So here's a couple different strategies in regards to a simple sign, or something that's got a little bit of shape to it, or incorporating rocks or trees, and then just laminate it. And so we've already started to do that in various locations within the town, and so you'll see examples of that. And then it talks about the costing and the phasing. So that's the pilot phase that we're looking for support tonight. So we're looking at two things tonight. Is one, the adoption of the strategy by council, and then proceeding with the first phase of it, or the pilot phase of it. So then if you scroll down to, I think it's your last page. Yeah. And so this would be under Appendix B. So this would give you an idea of where certain signs would be located. This is not necessarily where we would focus as in regards to the pilot, but it just gives you an idea of where certain signs would be. So you've got your minor information hub, at the Terrace Park, both one at Civic Center and one at the other entrance. You got a major information hub right at the Civic Center to give you additional information, and then some of the other different signages throughout. So we had initially budgeted for the creation of the strategy and the first phase of this strategy. And so there's approximately $28,000 left in the budget to do the implementation for the phase one. And then when you looked at phase one, the budget they were providing was $16,000. So certainly well enough dollars in that budget. And the implementation would be handed over to community services, since they have done all the other signage. So it's just a natural fit for them. And so this strategy just is really a guideline into the future that, if we're putting up a sign, it's not like we're going to go out and replace all our signs. It's just that as we go along and replace signs, or we're putting in new signs, this just gives staff guidance in regards to the strategy and the type of graphics and material types and things like that to be used. So I think I've spoke a little bit too much, and just open up to any questions.
Okay, thank you, David. I'll open up for questions. Murray had his hand up, then James, then Teresa. Murray, James, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, thank you for bringing this forward. I like it. I think it's a good pilot project again to implement the phase one. We're already doing a lot of this stuff. We're just bringing some good technology in it, like that QR code. This is going to promote families to get out and do some active transportation. I like the Garrison involvement and getting back to those bike rodeos that we've been doing without, to promote the youth for training, and encourage the walk and wheel Wednesdays, anything to help the environment and get people active. I'm all forward. So thank you. And at what level we take this to after that, we have some budget funds. So I think it's a good pilot project. Thank you.
Okay, James.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thanks, Dave, for bringing this report forward. Very good. I support the direction and the request for implementation of phase one. Everything looks great. In particular, the neighborhood greenways, I like that. idea. That's something that promotes the attractiveness of our community and makes it the type of place that somebody would like to come and live. Just makes it a homier and makes people want to get out and exercise more. So yes, I support this. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Yeah, just on that too, in regards to the green space, yeah, it's certainly one thing that when we are doing a reconstruction of a road that I'm always, thoughtful of, and you can see it now coming in the news more in regards to climate change and the additions of trees and green spaces, rather than dumping all the water back into, say, waterways. Let's use it into a grass area or trees. It only makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to David. David, I fully support the pilot project. I particularly like the guidance signs. I think they will be very much strong encouragers for not only our local residents to get out, but for people to come to our area and enjoy all of the walking opportunities and fresh air that they can. My question actually is just in regards to the informative signs. Both the major information and the minor information hub seem fairly busy, and I'm just wondering where the accessibility vision is for that with respect to people who may have vision issues. It's like I said, it just seems really busy, and I know that your team was looking at that. I just would like to just get some feedback on the appropriateness of those signs for those folks with vision challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, that's something I could bring it back to WSP to see what else they can do. The one thing that we tried to do, keeping in mind the accessibility aspect of it, and that certainly was one of the conversations around the table. And so the QR code provides that additional information that they can go to, and the use of logos and rather than a lot of words. So we've incorporated that. But I'll certainly bring that back to see if there's something in regards to the informative ones, to see if there's something different that could be done.
Thank you.
Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Dave. Dave, this is a very exciting initiative. I think it's a great project, and it's really going to make our trails and our town, give it that classy look. It's also going to be great to allow our residents to negotiate their way around our trails. And when the pandemic's over and we're allowed to have tourists again, it'll really help them find their way around our town and all of our trails as well. So I think it's a great initiative. I just have one question for you. As we continue to grow as a town, and let's say we add some more trails that don't exist already, is it easy for us to then take the maps that we have on the signs here and make additions to them and change them in the future? Thanks.
Yeah, great question. I'm not sure if Kelly has any feedback in regards to, because we, like I said, a lot of these are in various forms within the town. And so when we do have some additional information to be added, do you just reprint the whole sign, Kelly, or is it a skin that you can put on it, or?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult question. It's just, there's a lot of factors and variables. So it's going to depend on if there is a new trail somewhere, where it is, and the impact of information we're trying to share about that trail on other trails. Yes, you can, depending on the material you use, you can put some graphics over top of graphics on parts of the sign. In terms of the materials, the listing materials that's in this report, all but one we currently use in various signs throughout the municipality. So we're comfortable using the various materials, and we've been using them for a long time. There's pros and cons to using each one, so it depends. And as Dave said, as we move forward, signs over time just naturally need to be updated or changed out because they've faded from the sun or whatever it might be. The fauna type signs that we had in Centennial Park, they were there a long time, but some of the ones that were facing the sun or were exposed to the sun for a majority of the day, over time they kind of washed out and got spider cracks, and so some of those, you know, had to be replaced faster than ones that maybe were in the shade for a good portion of the day or under a tree. So it just depends. But really, yes, if we're using things like dye bond, you know, an aluminum sandwich over a foam core, those type of signs are originally printed digitally, but you know, they can be changed as we move along. So it'll just depend on the sign, the location, and that kind of thing.
Thanks.
Tom?
Dave, I think this one is for you. First of all, I think that the program is great. I think it follows what we're already doing, and I think it puts a lot of rules and regulations and some planning into where we're headed for the future. I think it looks good. I really like it. The one question I have for you, and I'm sure you're on top of this already, is there's a sketch with a neighborhood greenway cross-section diagram with the boulevard in it, and it shows trees growing between the roadway and the path. And we've discussed this before. While I think it's a great idea, I like the idea of the trees, but we know the maintenance and the problem with salt and the place to put snow in the wintertime, it becomes a catch-22. So I'm sure that you've got that on your radar, but it's something, you know, tough decision to make, but we have to make sure that we look after the maintenance and the place for snow removal in the wintertime as well. So just bring that to your attention. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I sit in a committee that on active transportation, and so we were talking about the maintenance of you know, bike lanes and multi-use pathways, and you know, so you just naturally think in regards to maintenance is strictly the surface and winter maintenance, and the things that are creeping into the discussions is the tree branches and that encroachment and illumination. So those are two other areas that we're putting in our guide that we're publishing. And so, yeah, good point. And, you know, maybe we can just add a note in regards to that within the guide.
Okay.
Thank you.
David, two things. You mentioned signage on the Algonquin Trail for mechanized vehicles. Is that, which trail are we talking about? Number one, and what do you consider mechanized vehicles? Is that the stone dusted portion of Algonquin Trail or the asphalt you mentioned?
Yeah, so where is it? Yeah, so it's under Appendix A, Family of Signs, and it's the second page there. So yeah, there's just two styles in regards to that kind of swoop with the different logos. One that has the motorized vehicles and the ones that don't. The one thing that I actually talked about right at the beginning with WSP, and we never settled on anything, but my preference going forward is that we have the Algonquin Trail, and then we have the asphalt trail that's parallel to the Algonquin Trail. I would like a name for that because it's not the Algonquin Trail. At least I don't consider it the Algonquin Trail. It's a paved portion that's adjacent to the Algonquin Trail. So the motorized one would be strictly on the Algonquin Trail.
So the stone dusting?
Yeah, the Algonquin Trail, the stone dust, the paved trail that's adjacent to the Algonquin Trail. That's where you'd have the non-motorized version.
So just so that I'll understand then, has this been run by the county and the
So-
Ottawa Valley Recreational Trail?
Yeah, so any signage that we would put on their trail would have to be ran by them.
Yeah.
So they were part of the stakeholder engagement right at the beginning. And so we provided, they provided input into it. And, you know, if and when we do plan on putting any signage on their trail, which like it would only be maybe like major hub or information signs. We try to kind of leave them do their own signage. They have a sign program. They have requirements through the Voyager to put up specific signage. So, you know, we included it in our guide here. But the reality is I don't think we will be using that one in regards to the Algonquin Trail. We'll leave that up to the county.
Yeah, because we're trying to standardize these signage on the stone dusty portion of the trail from Smith Falls all the way to Mattawa.
Mhm.
That's why I asked that question. And that hasn't come in front of us at either the Algonquin Trail Advisory Group or the Ottawa Valley Recreational Trail as well. Okay. Now, just one other, maybe you can help me a little bit. Neighborhood greening applications, widen existing sidewalks with decorative branding. So you're going to widen the existing sidewalks, as I understand, dressed up with an additional almost 1 meter of brand of hardscape. What is that? That's half on each side of the trail to make it wider, or is it decorative, or what are you trying to do with that? Or what's the suggestion here?
Yeah, it's just to delineate the buffer between the, like in this case, like a multi-use pathway and a sidewalk. And again, I wouldn't really, like, this is kind of throwing out like examples of what if, you know, that we could put in, you know, anything that we'd be doing like this, you know, would have to come through council, similar to what we did with Portage. And we said, okay, we're doing something different here, and we need council direction on it. And so it's just an idea of, okay, well, how do you separate, you know, a sidewalk and a multi-use pathway which has a cyclist? And so the one example here they have is like a little asphalt, colored asphalt, that would have, well, you can see it there, some thermoplastic inserts that would delineate the difference between the sidewalk and the bike lanes.
Sure. And I certainly would encourage item number 14, the Walk and Wheel Wednesdays. For many of you around here, I had a thing going when I was the warden. It was called the Warden's Weedless Walking Wednesday. And it was extremely popular. And we get maybe 40, 50 people going out in a group giving up cigarette smoking, weedless Wednesday walking with the warden. So maybe you could put weedless in there somewhere just for a thought, just to get people a little bit healthier. Tommy?
Dave, just out of curiosity, would the trail, I know you talked about a new name or a name for the walking trail parallel to Petawawa Boulevard. Would that be considered an extension of the Millennium Trail? I mean, we had the walking trail for years. It was called the Millennium Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Could you classify that as being an extension of that? I'm just throwing it out there for thought, that's all.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So, you know, maybe between myself and Kelly, we can kind of stew about that. But I would really like to have a name for that rather than the paved portion parallel to the Algonquin Trail.
It's interesting you asked that because we're the only one that has taken advantage of separating passive walking, shall we call it, and motorized on the Algonquin Trail. And that's part of the actual management program, that if you wanted to separate and have a passive portion of the Algonquin Trail, you can do that. So we're the only one, right, that I know of from Smith Falls all the way to Mattawa that have done that, has taken advantage of it. So I understand it gets a little confusing. You can't have the B trail and the A trail at this point in time. It's all part and parcel of the walking trail. Tom's idea of the Millennium Trail and the Emerald Necklace and all that sort of stuff, that was an award-winning trail that we received way back in 2003, I think it was, somewhere like that. James.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. So following up on what Dave is saying, maybe we should have a little contest to ask the people what an appropriate name for the trail would be for the paved portion that runs adjacent to the Algonquin Trail.
Well, it's a thought. I'll leave that in the hands of staff and have a look at that and come back and have a chat with us about that. It is confusing, that's for sure. Further on the report, you see the recommendation that we approve the adoption of the trail wayfinding strategy and direct staff to implement phase 1 as a pilot project. That's PW 19-2021. I need a mover and a seconder to take that. That's James and Teresa. Discussion, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to another PW 2021. David?
Yes, Your Worship. So we have a request from H&H Construction. They're the company through the County of Renfrew that is completing the pulverized and paving, and they did some curb work also along Petawawa Boulevard. So the request is starting tomorrow for approximately 4 days. It's very weather dependent. And tomorrow doesn't look like a great day, but they might be able to get some base asphalt down. So the request is to start at 3 a.m. in the morning and work through to 10 p.m. So we have a noise bylaw within the town, and the stipulation is that they can start at 6 a.m. And finish up at 10. And there's also a provision in there that if there is an exception, that it must be granted through council. So that's the request that H&H has sent through, and that the report entails. Just to probably give you a little bit more background that I didn't include in the report, the County of Renfrew have made, or at least attempted to make contact with every business that will be affected through this construction. It is going to be an extremely difficult project to coordinate, and that's why they want to start earlier so that they limit the disruptions to the businesses. Yeah, so they've provided each business or talked directly to everyone along that, and that was done last week. There'll be the process will probably be for the first half hour setting up everything, and you probably won't see paving starting until around 4 a.m. And then they'll continue through the day. They're going to sequence it such that they're not going to completely isolate areas, and so there might be some jumping around. I'm not as close to the project in regards to the specific details, but I know, talking to the contractor and to the county, that they're looking at strategically completing the paving so it doesn't disrupt so a complete length of businesses for a complete day. So they're kind of doing some juggling around. Other options, really there isn't. If they go back just to the 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., it'll just mean that instead of 4 days, it might take 5 or 6. So they're just making an attempt to, I guess, deal with the businesses and the traffic as best they can. So
Thanks.
I could open up to any questions.
So this is your recommendation coming forward. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Tom?
I recommend we give them permission to go ahead. I think we got to get this thing done as soon as possible. And working through those hours, I think it'd be a great benefit to everybody involved. I'll move the.
Okay, just hang on till I see, I appreciate that, Tom, but there's other, might want to say something here. I see James and then Teresa.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. I'm generally in favor of it, but I just want to confirm first, like, just how much noise are we talking about here, Dave? And we're going to minimize some disruption to the businesses and maybe inconvenience some of the residents who live in close proximity. How inconvenienced will they be?
So I'm trying to think of how to put the scale on the noise. So it's not a rock hammer on an excavator that's pounding. The asphalt is actually probably, in regards to the construction operations, probably one of the quieter operations. Not saying that it'll be silent, but you have the the asphalt. Probably the biggest noise that you're going to have is the backup alarms on the trucks, and so that's regulated by law, so they can't disconnect those. So that's probably the largest noise you're going to get. Other than that, it'll be kind of a general hum in regards to the engine of the recyclator and the pavers and the all the different piece of equipment that they have. But it's the backup alarm is probably going to be your worst.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we did a noise bylaw exemption on Petawawa Boulevard once before a few years back for another project, and I don't recall any big backlash from that. So
Yeah, we have done it in the past. We've also done it up on the highway, the Trans-Canada Highway, and a few other areas within the town. So it's not unusual. This is not something we haven't done in the past. So, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment in regards to the feedback that we've been receiving at the Petawawa Business Advisory Network. This is a big issue for businesses along the boulevard, and I think that H&H proceeding in this manner will certainly give them a bit of respite from that reality of not getting the kind of traffic flow through and business drop-ins that they have. I think it'll also assist with the garrison and the flow of traffic and whatnot. So again, as you said, David, if we can drop a couple of days off that schedule, I think that's a positive thing. So thanks to H&H for bringing this forward.
Are there any further comments before I go to Tom, who wants to move this particular recommendation? Seeing none, Tom, you're going to move this? Moved by Tom, seconded by Matthew. Any further discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. So there's two seasons in Canada, right? Summer and construction season, winter and construction season. Well, there you go. So it's going to look just fine when it's all finished, that's for sure. Okay, public works budget. David, anything you want to talk to us about?
No, you're going to see a large increase over the next next time you do see it, because we've done a lot of maintenance over the last few weeks, and we've got
And then lots of money.
Yeah, we're spending lots of money. Yes,
There you go.
but nothing to highlight.
That value for their money, for their tax dollars, right? Okay, there you go. Any questions on the transportation budget? Receive that as information. Sewage system, David?
Nope, nothing to highlight there.
Any
Unless
questions
there's a
on the
question.
sewage system? Seeing none. Waterworks.
Nothing to highlight unless there was
Okay.
some questions.
Questions on the water mains? Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Okay, so we'll now go to planning. Karen, please.
Good evening. I'll just highlight a few items within the activity report for June. Of course, a new application before us, a report this evening as well on the town center subdivision, a new townhouse development. So we do have a subdivision application, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment application. Public meeting is scheduled for August 3rd. Site plan and zoning bylaw amendment for Emmanuel Lighthouse Church. That development agreement has now been registered and building permit issued. As well, the site plan for the daycare at Herman Street, that building permit was also issued and they are working on development. We did receive a new site plan application for Safeguard Electric for the industrial park. The application was on circulation up until June 30th. A comment letter has been sent back to the consultant, so we're waiting for their next submission. Site plan application was also submitted for the Petawawa Boulevard and Donald Drive. It's a 10-unit apartment building, and that application is on circulation until July 19th. Several general inquiries, of course, lots of activity in terms of proposed severances in town. In terms of pre-consultation, I'll just give a couple of highlights there as well. We did receive a site plan application. It's not noted in the June details. However, the Hyundai dealership provided us with a site plan and zoning bylaw amendment for their property. So we've been working very hard and trying to get them to come in with the expansion of their parking lot. So we're looking forward to circulating that application. And as well, the second industrial park application is also coming in for circulation. A number of orders to comply, some violations in the month of June. So we were quite busy in that area. A couple of sign violations, people putting up signs without permits. And so we're having to chase them to get applications in and some compliance. And I can take any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you. Questions of Karen's report? Tom?
Karen, I see one here under consents, the lot addition from the church to Neville's on Petawawa Boulevard. Have you got any information on that?
That actually has just recently cleared the county. I haven't been circulated directly on that yet, but it is, there was a walkway at one point in time that extended from the church towards the Tim Hortons property, and it's adjacent to the Neville's property. So that's basically that block. And so they're looking to add that block of land to the Neville's property.
Okay, thank you.
Further on Karen's report. Lots of things happening, eh, Karen?
Busy, busy.
Busy, is right. If there's no further comments or questions, I need a motion to accept the report. James, Teresa, no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, PL 1421. This is for information, as I understand it, Karen, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So it's the town center subdivision application, 96 unit townhouse development, part of lot 23 concession 6, being part of block 1 on plan 49M68. The application for draft plan approval was submitted to the County of Renfrew by JP2G Incorporated on behalf of a number company 1758847 Ontario Inc. The proposal is for a 23 block subdivision. It includes parkland, a block, stormwater management, as well as several 0.3 meter reserves. Again, a total of 96 units are proposed on these lands. The property is located within the town center subdivision and is located adjacent to the Chad and Winston Avenue developments, and is located directly across the road from the Metro site. The overall development site is approximately 4.7 hectares, which is just under 12 acres, and does have frontage along Town Center Boulevard. There is one street that will be looped in the development. The parkland block is approximately 0.1 hectare in size, so approximately 0.25 of an acre. It's to be used for a tot lot purpose. And then any remaining parkland requirement would be paid out in cash. The services, of course, full service, water, sewer, and stormwater management. The official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, there was a planning justification report submitted to the town that basically ties all of these applications together. The review in that report does assess the provincial policy statement, as well as the town official plan, the commercial zoning, as well as the proposed residential 3 zoning provisions. The official plan amendment, the purpose is to allow a change in designation from commercial to residential and to permit the registration of that subdivision. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone from a commercial holding to a residential 3 to permit those townhomes. The holding symbol will remain on the R3 zone, and this will allow council to actually approve a site plan for these townhomes. So this is a little bit different. The developer will have to submit a site plan application, and council will be able to take a look at what is proposed on these lots before any individual lots are actually created. So the supporting documentation, as noted in the report, the planning justification report. There was also a residential justification study that was prepared by Urban Metrics. And then there was a residential subdivision functional servicing report, also prepared by JP2G. The residential justification study, just a couple of items on that. Staff were concerned about how the change in use within the subdivision might change the overall commercial inventory, and would there be a negative effect? This report did come back saying, in fact, there would be no negative impact on our commercial base, and that we would still have full ability to attract commercial uses within this subdivision. And there would be no there is certainly sufficient land to accommodate commercial uses beyond the 2036. So a public meeting has been scheduled for August 3rd. It is a joint public meeting with the County of Renfrew for their subdivision application. And then our official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications as well. I have received a couple of calls on this application already. So I will be providing a summary of any comments to council prior to the public meeting, as well to the developer. So some of those answers can be provided possibly at the public meeting. If there are any concerns that council has, I can certainly make note of those. You can forward them to me, and we can make sure that those are addressed at some point in time by the developer. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said, this is an information item, but nonetheless, it's open for questions of Karen's presentation. James?
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Karen, I have a question with respect to the in section 9 of the planning justification report. It says the issue of parkland dedication requires some discussion. So I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on, like, it seems like we're accepting cash in lieu of parkland for this subdivision development. And I'm just wondering why. why would we not develop a full park? And why would we accept cash in lieu? And what are the rules and regs surrounding that? This seems to sort of fly in the face of some discussion that we had earlier in this meeting about the importance of green space in our community. And it seems to me that we're developing, we've got another residential development here with a tiny little park in it.
Yeah. Well, actually, the block that's being provided, it's for tot lot purposes. So it's for the actual individual community in the immediate area. There is that larger park that is being developed that Community Services has been working on in the adjacent Laurentian Highlands. In terms of cash in lieu of parkland and the payment, when the original commercial subdivision was developed, we did take cash in lieu of parkland for the commercial use. It's 2% that's taken. And now, as part of this development, residential, normally we would take a 5% cash in lieu, but they're looking, of course, for a credit for any of the additional cash in lieu. What it ends up being when the math is completed, there's a very, very small cash payment. I'm not even sure that it reaches $1,000. So they are almost close to what is required for the this size of development.
So
Thank you.
Karen, help me, there is a community park going to be put into that area, is there not, in close proximity to this development?
Well, there's a tot lot block.
Yeah, but beyond that, isn't that the Laurentian Highlands?
Laurentian Highlands is creating the more of a neighborhood park.
Neighborhood park up there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But
okay.
this tot lot is located on the corner of the new street and
Sure.
town center.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, fair enough. Further on, what can Gary? Then Teresa. Or did you put your hand up before, Teresa? No, Gary, then Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Karen. Just on, since we're on the topic of the parkland, so that tiny tot lot in section 10 of the plan, their responsibility is just to provide that land and nothing else. If we want to further develop that into a playground and also provide fencing around that, is that our financial responsibility?
Not necessarily. We can require them as part of the draft conditions that they provide something. So in some of our parks, we have required, walkways through, to adjoin different sections of the neighborhood where they've had to create those the pathways. So they have to provide the asphalt or what have you, as well as fencing. I was speaking to Community Services and there was some concern with respect to the location of this tot lot. And I don't see any reason why we could not add as one of the draft conditions that fencing is provided. So if there are any other considerations that council would like to see, I would certainly be willing to hear those.
Sure. Thank you. Sorry, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gary and Karen had addressed my question. I was going to ask if we could request them to put up some fencing for that tot lot. So thank you for that. And I'm not entirely sure where this belongs, so I'll just say it here and it may belong somewhere else. But and I realize it's for townhouses, but in one of the reports, it talks about stacked townhouse development. And I'm just wondering if there's ever been conversations about the stacked development, because we do have a relative shortage of homes that are suitable for our aging population with the ground floor entry and things like that. And anyways, it's just a question. I think it's a question that I have every single time I see a subdivision come up. But again, we've got a lot of townhouses in this area, and they obviously are meeting a demand, and it does provide for a mix of housing. But that was a question that our Accessibility Advisory Committee had as well today. Has there been any consideration for the ground floor entry types with no stairs for our aging population and folks who may have accessibility requirements that would find it difficult to get into a townhouse and whatnot. And there's not a lot, I don't think, in our inventory that can address that. So anyways, just a point, I guess, more than anything else. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just add that in the process of pre-consultation with the developer, they did suggest that they were looking to market some of the units to a more senior population, if you will. They were considering bungalow style townhomes as well. So the accessibility component may be something that we could certainly suggest that the town would be interested in.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm glad they've had those considerations because it is important. Although we are a youthful population, we have certainly a lot of us that are getting a little bit older and are staying in this community and want to. So thank you.
Tom?
Karen, maybe it's a little bit too early, as Teresa just voiced her opinion about, but I think we should be very careful and make sure that there's enough room in the front, from the front of the building to the lot line, so for parking. And I'm very happy to see that there's an overflow parking lot. I think that's very important. And if we have a small garage on the front of them would be even better, so that they can put things like their green bin, their garbage bins, and so on and so forth in the garage, out of sight. That makes things a lot nicer, nice, neat, tidy, so on and so forth. So I think those are some of the things that we should just be watching for whenever the design actually comes out of the units.
Absolutely, and that is a conversation that we did have with the developer. And in fact, one of their solutions was to push the townhomes a little bit further back from the street to create additional parking. So we're quite pleased in that regard. As well, the council will have an opportunity again to take a look at the actual site plan that is being proposed for those individual townhouse units. So again, it's a little bit different. We haven't gone down this road before, but before those building permits are issued, you'll have a chance to see what is proposed. Yeah.
Okay, James?
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Yes, just to follow up and strengthen Councillor Mons' concerns regarding the amount of space that's going to be available for people to park their vehicles and their recreational vehicles and boats and skidoos and quads and all of that stuff. It's important that we try to minimize the disruption that you have there, because some of these we know some of the other developments, it's difficult to even drive through those streets like Winston and Limestone when they're just chock full of vehicles and kids darting around all over the place. It's nothing short of dangerous. So anything we can do to minimize that is a good thing.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. Further on the report. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Karen. Karen, just one other concern that I have with the part of this development that would back onto Chad Street. The elevation there seems to be quite an elevation drop from Chad down to where this development is going to be. And I see you provided us with a diagram that shows what's going to happen there. And part of it is a wood privacy fence and then just a slope down onto the street. So there are some concerns there, I think, with drainage coming from the Chad Street area down to this new development. And I know you answered this question to me already about the wood privacy fence eventually being turned over and becoming part of the town property. So there is some concern there that we're going to be taking over a wooden fence that we may have to perform some upkeep or maintenance on. So I was just wondering about those two issues. Thanks.
Sure. The first issue with respect to the fence, during our pre-consultation with the developer, we did advise them that we weren't necessarily satisfied with a wooden fence. We want something that is more permanent and maintenance free, if you will. So that that's not necessarily something that we would accept. And I think we've been quite clear in that. So we need to make some adjustments to that diagram that you see. In regards to the drainage, I'm just wondering if David may be able to help us in that regard for this berm.
Yeah, so lots of great questions and discussion and pertinent points. So in regards to the drainage, so actually Laurentian Highlands, that development is all really self-contained with respect to drainage. So if you're looking at that diagram, I think it's on page 174 of your package. You know, so in between the person figure and the wood fence, so there is a bit of a swale right there right now, and there's a rear yard catch basins, and that's on the Chad side. All of Chad drains from the rear to the front, and so yeah, there won't be any drainage from the Chad property to this. And so then again, similar to Laurentian Highlands, this one is all a self-contained drainage. So all the drainage from that slope, from the units themselves, from the roadway, all that would go into the stormwater management pond. And I think it's located in block 18. And so that's all been designed. So really the water is separated between the two developments.
Thanks.
Thank you. Further? And we'll look forward to seeing this on August the 3rd. Thank you, Karen, for that. With that, we'll go to PL 15-2021, consent application deficiencies for the new county process. You have a copy of it, PL 15-21. Karen, please.
Yes, thank you. Recommendation that council support the streamlining of the consent application approval process, which delegates the Director of Planning and Development to provide comments and conditions for consent applications directly to, I did mention to the Land Division Committee, but in fact it would be to the Secretary Treasurer to the Land Division Committee. I was approached a couple of weeks ago by County Planning asking if I would speak to them in regards to speak to them about opportunities to implement a change in the way that we currently process severance applications. Just to provide you with a quick outline of our existing process, currently the county circulates to myself as well as to our chief building official. The CBO receives the application if it's obviously a rural application and requires a septic permit. Once the CBO responds to the county, he sends a letter to the Secretary Treasurer providing those comments. Once I receive the application, I of course prepare a planning report for town planning committee and outline the conditions and comments. Now, when following the presentation, I am required to prepare a municipal report and submit that to the Secretary Treasurer. I will note that at this point in time, once we've gotten to this stage, there's been a lot of consultation back and forth. There is a general inquiry process where we vet the applications before people even submit them to us. So there's a lot of talk back and forth between the county and myself. The new process that they're suggesting is the county package would be circulated directly to myself, and then I would be performing any internal circulations for comments. Generally, those would be circulated to Public Works and likely to our CBO as well for comments. And then once I receive those comments back, I would complete that municipal report form and send directly to the Secretary Treasurer. So the difference in this process obviously is that I would no longer be providing a specific presentation for each and every consent application to Planning Committee. As you know, I am bound by the official plan policies as well as the zoning bylaw provisions. And I can certainly keep council Planning Committee in the loop with respect to these applications and provide additional information as part of my monthly planning report. I think, the county is working very hard to streamline these applications to get things moving as quickly as possible. I think it's appropriate and certainly within our ability to help accommodate their request. And I think in the end, it's really our residents who benefit with the speeding up of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Maybe I can add a little bit to that. For the last year or thereabouts, the County of Renfrew has been going through what they call a service delivery review, part of which was part of the planning process. And there's been a number of actions taken place by a number of the lower tier municipalities and making requests to us and to the consultants that they were not happy with the speed in which some of the planning documents were coming through. The county then brought into play another consultant, or the same consultant, with a focus basically on the planning process as far as efficiencies are concerned. And this certainly was highlighted by what Karen has just spoken about, in which they're trying to find a quicker way and a better way and a faster way of getting the information to the lower tiers and from the lower tiers through to the planning process at the County of Renfrew. That's basically what this is all about, to make it a quicker going forward, up to including the official plan that has now gone to the province for endorsement, so that we can do OP amendments locally, which is part and parcel of what we're after, and also to make the consent application through land division much faster, so that we can make things happen a lot quicker within the County of Renfrew. That's the process that they're trying to make happen with this particular situation. So I fully endorse what they're trying to do here at the county. I think it will be better for Karen, and I think it'll be better for the town of Petawawa planning to make this move a little bit smoother and quicker through the process. Questions? James.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. I support this request. That's something that I've heard in the past from residents, that they're frustrated at the speed at which this process moves. So if this can make it more efficient and speed it up a bit, then I think it would be a good thing for our residents.
Thank you for that. Father? See none, I need a motion to accept the recommendation. James, seconded by Murray. Any discussion? No, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, then we'll go on to accounts payable. Oh no, where are we? Budget report. Sorry, pardon me. Planning, building, and economic development. Sorry.
Sorry, I can take any questions that council may have.
Okay, so the first one is planning and zoning. Any questions on zoning and planning and zoning? Pardon me. Seeing none, information. Building department. Nothing you want to talk to us about, Karen? No? Okay.
No.
Committee? None. Economic development. Got to give Christine a little bit headache here, no? Just kidding, okay. Then we'll receive that as information. Okay, now we can go to our accounts payable. Okay, anyone want to make a motion to pay the bills? Please, sir. I'll get them all out of here. Okay, any questions? Pardon me? Nope, seeing none. It's moved by Teresa, seconded by Matthew. We pay the bills. No questions, no comments. And Ed, you're getting off scot-free here today. There you go. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor. Then we can go ahead and pay the bills. There we go. More checks on a Thursday. All right. Admin 1321, animal control enforcement report. Kate, are you reporting on this? No? Okay, who is?
Well, I would be certainly pleased for Kate to report on it if she so desires, but in the meantime, you have before you admin 13/2021 from the deputy clerk, the animal control bylaw enforcement report for the month of June. There are a couple of issues that have been dealt with by both our law enforcement, municipal law enforcement, as well as our parking and bylaw enforcement. And the issues are before you. Any questions that you might have, I'd be pleased to try and answer, and otherwise we'll have to speak to the deputy clerk on those matters.
Okay, I'll open it up for questions. It's nice to have the dog gentleman back again and answering any questions. Any comments? No? So admin 13/2021 received the animal control bylaw monthly activity report for June. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Gary, seconded by Tom. All in favor? Then it is carried. Accounts payable, animal control. Anything you want to talk to us about it yet?
No, there's nothing to report. They're all within the allotted amount there right now for this time of year. And I'm sure as more things get purchased, they'll be changing.
Okay. That's nothing for administration. Any questions on administration? Seeing none. Animal control bylaw and enforcement? Nothing. And of course, council, there's never anything about council. Okay, fair enough. General matters, anything for general matters?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing for closed?
Nothing.
Motion to adjourn, please. Let's move by James, seconded by Murray. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.